Welcome to Star by Us, the podcast where we delve into the fascinating lives of entertainment's most iconic figures. I'm your host, Casey Gold, and today we're shining the spotlight on a comedy legend who redefined the art of stand-up and left an indelible mark on our culture, George Carlin. With his biting social commentary, clever wordplay, and irreverent style, Carlin became a beacon for free thinkers and nonconformists everywhere. Born on May 12, 1937, in Manhattan's Morningside Heights neighborhood, George Dennis Patrick Carlin was the son of Mary Berry, a secretary, and Patrick John Carlin, a national advertising manager for the New York Sun. The sounds of jazz and blues music drifted from the nearby nightclubs, while the streets were lined with old brownstones, their stoops worn smooth by generations of families like the Carlins. But despite the vibrant surroundings, George's early life was marked by instability, with his parents divorcing when he was just 2 months old. This pivotal event would have a lasting impact on Carlin's worldview, as he often credited his dysfunctional family dynamics with honing his observational skills and fueling his skepticism of authority. As a child, George navigated the challenges of a single-parent household, where his mother's struggles to make ends meet were a constant source of stress. The apartment they shared was small, with peeling paint and creaky floors, but it was filled with the love of words and language that Mary instilled in her son. She encouraged George's creative side, introducing him to the works of authors like Mark Twain and H.G. Wells, whose stories sparked his imagination and transported him to far-off worlds. The musty smell of old books and the feel of yellowed pages between his fingers became a source of comfort for George, as he escaped into the world of literature. However, Mary's own personal struggles with drinking and relationships would also expose young George to the harsh realities of adult life. He witnessed arguments and fights, the sound of shattering glass and raised voices echoing through the halls. These experiences planted seeds of disillusionment that would later bloom into comedic gold, as Carlin learned to observe the world around him with a critical eye. The contradictions of his childhood, the love and support of his mother, juxtaposed with the instability and chaos of their home life, would become a hallmark of his comedy, as he learned to find humor in the darkest of places. As George entered his formative years, he found solace in the Dublin-born Irish-American community of Sunnyside Gardens, Queens. The neighborhood was a vibrant tapestry of cultures, with its own unique rhythms and traditions. He developed a strong sense of social justice, watching as the community came together to support one another through thick and thin. The sounds of laughter and music filled the air as families gathered on their stoops, sharing stories and jokes that would become the foundation of Carlin's comedic style. Carlin spent hours listening to radio shows like The Jack Benny Program and The Shadow, which sparked his imagination and taught him the power of storytelling. He was fascinated by the way words could be used to paint pictures, evoke emotions, and transport listeners to new worlds. As he entered Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx, George began to develop his public speaking skills, often regaling classmates with humorous impressions and witty observations. His quick wit and sharp tongue earned him a reputation as a class clown, but it also hid a deeper insecurity, a fear of not being taken seriously, of being seen as just a joke. Despite struggling academically, Carlin found solace in the school's drama club, discovering a talent for performance that would eventually become his life's passion. He devoured plays and scripts, analyzing the way characters were developed, and how dialogue could be used to reveal their motivations and desires. The smell of grease paint and the feel of spotlights on his skin became addictive, as George discovered the thrill of being on stage, of making people laugh and cry. The post-war era in which Carlin grew up was a time of great social change and cultural upheaval. As he navigated the complexities of adolescence, he was exposed to the emerging counterculture of the 1950s, with its beats, hipsters, and early stirrings of rebellion against mainstream values. He watched as the world around him began to shift, as the conformity of the 1940s gave way to a new era of experimentation and nonconformity. These influences would later find their way into his comedy, as Carlin became a leading voice in the movement to challenge social norms and push the boundaries of free speech. The combination of a tumultuous home life, a strong maternal influence, and an innate curiosity about the world around him would shape his unique perspective and comedic voice. With his quick wit, sharp observations, and irreverent style, Carlin was poised to take the comedy world by storm, leaving an indelible mark on our culture and cementing his place as one of the most beloved and respected comedians of all time. As Carlin's passion for performance grew, it began to consume him, like a wildfire spreading through a parched landscape. He devoured every opportunity to hone his craft, and in 1959 he landed an apprenticeship at WEZ in Boston, where he worked alongside the legendary disc jockey Joe Dolan. The station's worn, wooden floors creaked beneath their feet as they navigated the cramped corridors, lined with dusty records and faded photographs of bygone eras. It was here, amidst the nostalgic aroma of old vinyl and the faint scent of cigarette smoke, that Carlin developed his skills as a writer and performer, creating comedic sketches and characters that would later become staples of his act. As he worked tirelessly to refine his craft, Carlin's days blended together in a kaleidoscope of sound and laughter. He spent hours scribbling notes on scraps of paper, observing the world around him with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The city streets became his canvas, with characters and stories waiting to be unearthed in every alleyway and corner diner. In 1959, he enlisted in the United States Air Force, where he was stationed at radar stations in Louisiana and Georgia, continuing to hone his craft by performing for his fellow airmen. The harsh, utilitarian surroundings of the military bases only served to fuel his creativity, as he found solace in the laughter and camaraderie of his comrades. After his honorable discharge from the Air Force in 1962, Carlin began to make a name for himself in the comedy world, performing stand-up at local clubs and coffee houses. The dimly lit rooms, thick with the smell of coffee and cigarette smoke, became his domain, where he could experiment and push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. His big break came in 1961 when he appeared on The Tonight Show with Jack Paar, catching the attention of talent scouts and booking agents. This exposure led to more television appearances, including The Ed Sullivan Show and The Merv Griffin Show, where Carlin's irreverent style and biting wit quickly made him a favorite among audiences. As the 1960s counterculture movement gained momentum, Carlin found himself at the forefront of a new wave of comedians who were pushing the boundaries of free speech and challenging social norms. The air was electric, with the sense of possibility and rebellion, as artists and activists alike sought to challenge the status quo. In 1966, Carlin released his debut album, Takeoffs and Put-Ons, which showcased his unique brand of observational comedy. The album was a moderate success, but it laid the groundwork for his subsequent releases, including FM and AM in 1972, which earned him his first Grammy nomination. One notable example of Carlin's impact during this period was his infamous 7 Words You Can Never Say on television routine, which he first performed in 1972. The bit, which listed 7 words that were considered taboo on television at the time, sparked a national debate about censorship and free speech. The routine was later adapted into a Grammy-winning album, Class Clown, released in 1972, which cemented Carlin's status as a leading voice in American comedy. As he recalled, "I wanted to challenge the notion that there were certain words or ideas that were off-limits, that we couldn't talk about them because they were too raw or too real." This willingness to confront audiences with uncomfortable truths would become a hallmark of Carlin's career, earning him both acclaim and criticism in equal measure. Carlin's relationships with his contemporaries, including comedians like Richard Pryor and Robert Klein, were also significant during this period. The three often performed together at clubs and festivals, pushing each other to explore new themes and styles in their work. As Carlin recalled, "We were all trying to break free from the traditional mold of comedy, to find new ways to talk about the world and our place in it." This sense of camaraderie and creative competition helped fuel some of the most innovative and groundbreaking comedy of the era. They would often gather at each other's homes, sharing stories and ideas, and pushing each other to take risks and experiment with new material. Throughout the 1970s, Carlin continued to release critically acclaimed albums, including Occupation, Fool in 1973 and An Evening with Wally Lando featuring Bill Slasso in 1975. His stand-up routines became increasingly biting and incisive, tackling topics like politics, social justice, and the human condition. As he once observed, "I think it's the duty of the comedian to find out where the line is drawn and cross it." This willingness to challenge boundaries and confront audiences with uncomfortable truths would become a hallmark of Carlin's career, earning him both acclaim and criticism in equal measure. As the decade drew to a close, Carlin found himself at the height of his powers, with a string of successful albums and television appearances under his belt. He had established himself as one of the most innovative and influential comedians of his generation, with a unique voice and perspective that would continue to shape American comedy for decades to come. With his irreverent style, biting wit, and unwavering commitment to free speech, Carlin was poised to take on the challenges of a new era, using his platform to challenge social norms and push the boundaries of what was possible in the world of comedy. As the 1980s dawned, George Carlin continued to push the boundaries of comedy, releasing a string of critically acclaimed albums that would cement his status as a trailblazer in the industry. A Place for My Stuff in 1981 and Playing with Your Head in 1986 were just two examples of his innovative and incisive work, tackling topics like politics, social justice, and the human condition with unflinching candor. His stand-up routines became increasingly irreverent, leaving audiences both amused and uncomfortable as he challenged their perspectives on everything from government hypocrisy to the absurdities of everyday life. One of Carlin's most iconic bits from this era was his scathing critique of the American dream, which he memorably described as something you have to be asleep to believe. This willingness to challenge boundaries and confront audiences with uncomfortable truths would become a hallmark of Carlin's career, earning him both acclaim and criticism in equal measure. As he took the stage, his eyes twinkling with mischief, he would launch into tirades against the establishment, his words dripping with sarcasm and wit. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Carlin continued to release innovative and influential albums, including Jammin' in New York in 1992 and Life is Worth Losing in 2005. His stand-up routines became increasingly personal and introspective, tackling topics like aging, mortality, and the search for meaning in a chaotic world. As he once reflected, "I put $1 in a change machine. Nothing changed." This ability to find humor in even the darkest of subjects would become a hallmark of Carlin's later work, earning him widespread critical acclaim and a devoted following. Carlin's performances during this era were often marked by a sense of urgency and passion, as if he was driven by a desire to convey the importance of living life on one's own terms. He would regale audiences with stories of his own experiences, from his childhood growing up in New York City to his struggles with addiction and personal loss. His words were infused with a deep sense of empathy and understanding, and he had a unique ability to connect with people from all walks of life. In his final years, Carlin remained committed to his craft, continuing to tour and perform stand-up until his health began to decline. He was recognized with numerous awards and accolades, including multiple Grammy nominations and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Comedy Central Network. As he once said, "I think it's the duty of the comedian to find out where the line is drawn and cross it." This willingness to challenge boundaries and push the limits of what was possible in comedy would become a lasting legacy of Carlin's career. Despite his advancing age and declining health, Carlin remained as sharp and incisive as ever, using his platform to speak truth to power and challenge social norms. He was a fierce critic of the Bush administration and the Iraq War, and his performances often included scathing critiques of American foreign policy and the military-industrial complex. His words were laced with a sense of outrage and indignation, but also with a deep sense of compassion and empathy for the human cost of war. George Carlin passed away on June 22, 2008, at the age of 71, leaving behind a body of work that continues to inspire and influence comedians to this day. His legacy is one of unflinching honesty, unwavering commitment to free speech, and a tireless pursuit of innovation and creativity. As he once observed, "The planet is fine, the people are fucked." This ability to find humor in even the darkest of subjects would become a hallmark of Carlin's later work, earning him widespread critical acclaim and a devoted following. Today, George Carlin is remembered as one of the most innovative and influential comedians of his generation, a true original who left an indelible mark on the world of comedy. His work continues to inspire and influence new generations of comedians, from Chris Rock to Louis C.K., and his legacy serves as a reminder of the power of comedy to challenge social norms and push the boundaries of what is possible. Carlin's impact extends far beyond the world of comedy, however. His commitment to free speech and his willingness to challenge social norms have made him a hero to many people around the world. He was a fierce advocate for social justice and human rights, and his performances often included biting critiques of racism, sexism, and other forms of oppression. His words were infused with a deep sense of empathy and compassion, and he had a unique ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Despite the many challenges he faced, Carlin remained committed to his craft, always pushing himself to explore new ideas and challenge new boundaries. That's all for today's Star Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm Casey Gold reminding you to keep shooting for the stars.